They laughed at him because he never blinked. They mocked him because his hands were always cold. But on the night a mountain village faced death, the sniper they called Strange became the only man who didn't tremble. Because the cold never scared him. He was born in it. The northern border was a place soldiers feared. A land where silence wasn't peaceful. And cold wasn't weather. It was a living thing. Winds howled through the canyons like ghosts. Metal froze solid within minutes. And even the bravest troops learned to fear their own breath, as it crystallized in front of their face. But one man never feared the cold. Private Elias Mercer. He was strange from the very beginning. While others crowded around the fire, rubbing their hands for warmth, Mercer never stepped closer. His hands were always freezing. His pulse always slow. His eyes almost never blinked. The soldiers whispered, "Creepy guy. I swear he was born frozen. He'll never be a sniper. His trigger finger is ice." But no one knew Mercer's past. No one knew he grew up in the glaciers, hunting alone to survive. The cold wasn't his enemy. It was his teacher. One winter night, a brutal blizzard swallowed the base whole. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. The wind hit faces like shards of glass. Then the radio exploded with panic. "Emergency! The northern village is under attack. They've taken hostages, children included." The officers froze where they stood. No sniper could fire in this storm. No finger could even touch a trigger without shaking. "Sniper team, prepare!" the commander shouted. The snipers exchanged terrified glances. Fear, doubt, uncertainty. But Mercer simply picked up his rifle. The cold that crushed everyone else felt like home to him. He climbed to the highest lookout point as the storm howled. Snow whipped his face. Yet his eyes never blinked. Not once. The village lay across the valley, nearly invisible behind sheets of snow. The wind changed directions violently, like it wanted to bend the bullet itself. Echoes in the frozen gorge distorted every sound. For a normal sniper, this was impossible. But Mercer wasn't normal. He watched how the snowflakes fell. Their angle, their drift, their timing. He felt the wind in his bones, as if it were speaking a language he'd always known. A child's scream carried through the storm. Mercer lifted his scope. His eyes did not blink. Seconds stretched thin. The wind shifted. His breath turned to ice. Then his frozen finger curled around the trigger. And the finger that didn't tremble saved a village. Bang! The bullet cut through the storm like a living thing. A dark figure fell. Then another. Then another. Children ran free. Mothers cried out in relief. The attackers scattered in panic. Mercer did not miss a single shot. The cold sharpened him. When soldiers reached the village, every hostage was alive. Every attacker either fled or fell. No one understood how it happened. An old villager stared at Mercer and whispered, "A man who commands the cold. We haven't seen that in decades." Back at the base, the commander made the announcement. "A village lives today. Because one man didn't freeze." For the first time, the soldiers looked at Mercer. Not with fear. Not with mockery. But with respect. But Mercer just shrugged. "The cold?" he said quietly. "To me, it's just air." He didn't blink. He didn't tremble. He didn't fear the cold. Because the cold raised him. And on the night it mattered, he gave that gift back to the world. The base treated Mercer like a ghost that suddenly became human. Soldiers who once mocked him now watched him with a kind of uneasy awe. Because they'd seen what no ordinary man could do. A perfect shot through a blizzard that should have blinded the world. But Mercer didn't celebrate. He barely spoke. He simply cleaned his rifle, checked the bolt, and stared at the snow drifting on the window ledge as if it were speaking to him. Sergeant Hale approached. "You saved a village," he said quietly. "No one else could have done that." Mercer didn't look away from the window. "The storm isn't finished," he murmured. Hale frowned. Meaning what? Mercer finally blinked, once slowly. Someone was guiding them through the storm. The rescue team that scouted the abandoned village returned with a disturbing report. One of the attackers was wearing Arctic gear, the corporal said. Not local. Not random. Professional. Hale stiffened. Who operates in weather like this? Only Mercer answered. Someone who understands the cold. He lifted something wrapped in cloth. A small metal canister. Inside, frozen condensation formed a strange pattern. Mercer recognized it instantly. His chest tightened. This was a thermal distortion device, used to bend heat signatures, making drones useless and confusing sniper scopes. Soldiers whispered. How did they get something like that? Who taught them to move in a blizzard? Mercer stepped outside into the storm again. He looked at the treeline, the snow, the faint trails only he could see. They're not attacking villages for territory, he said. They're testing the storm. That night Mercer couldn't sleep. The cold outside the barracks walls hummed with memory. He saw flashes of his childhood. Not warm family dinners. Or schoolyard games. But the glacier. The smell of ice. The sound of cracking frost. The endless white horizon. He remembered his father's voice. In the cold, son, you don't survive by fighting it. You survive by listening to it. His father had been a tracker. One of the best in the Arctic Recon Division. Mercer had followed him everywhere. He hunted by reading snowflakes. Tracked men by studying how their breath froze. And learned to shoot by feeling the wind inside the bones of the glacier. But one winter, his father never returned. Only a shattered compass and a frozen rifle were found near a collapsed ice cave. Mercer learned two things that day. The cold kills the reckless. But it hides the patient. That same patience now hummed through him as he realized. The men who attacked the village were using techniques his father once warned him about. At dawn, Mercer led a small unit back toward the ridge overlooking the valley. The storm had calmed, but only slightly. Snow still drifted like restless ghosts. He knelt, brushing aside the fresh layer of powder. Underneath, he found it. A footprint too deep, too controlled, belonging to someone trained to walk on moving ice. He found another. Then another. Hale crouched beside him. You're telling me these guys are trained for blizzards? Mercer nodded. They're not just surviving the storm. They're using it. Hale's voice hardened. For what? Mercer stood and looked at the valley. Thin smoke still rose from the village. Wind carried a distant sound, like metal dragging across ice. For something big, Mercer whispered. Something they didn't finish last night. Back at the base, new intel poured in. Multiple villages had gone silent. Radio towers stopped responding. Drone feeds froze as if swallowed by the storm. Every pattern pointed to the same chilling truth. The blizzard wasn't an obstacle. It was a cover. A cover for something coordinated. Something large. Something that moved like a shadow beneath the ice. Hale turned to Mercer. You felt it, didn't you? When you took that shot. Mercer nodded slowly. There was another sniper out there, he said. One who knew how to hide in this storm. One who didn't blink either. The room went silent. Hale whispered. Mercer, are you saying this isn't over? Mercer's breath fogged the air. This was just the beginning. When the blizzard finally broke, the valley fell into a deep, eerie silence. Mercer pushed forward through the frozen wasteland, alone, until a faint metallic chime rose from beneath the snow. He knelt, brushed the ice aside, and froze. There, half embedded in the crystal blue ice, lay a knife. Not just any knife. His knife. The same hand-carved markings. The same worn handle. The same blade he'd lost years ago in the glacier storms of the north. Impossible, yet undeniably real. As Mercer lifted the blade, a single flash of light flickered across the distant mountainside, not a sniper's glint, but something else entirely. A signal. A greeting. A recognition. The wind howled through the canyon, carrying with it a whisper that felt too intentional to ignore. You're not the only one who learned from the ice. Mercer tightened his grip on the blade, eyes narrowing toward the ridge. Questions swirled through his mind like the snow around his boots. Who was out there? How did they have his knife? And why did they know him so well? No answers came. Only one truth remained. The storm wasn't over. And Mercer's past was beginning to rise from beneath the snow.